Hey guys, and welcome to Lex's World. Today we ask the question of why marijuana is illegal. How did pot prohibition actually start? The history of it is a matter of public record and is also mind-blowing if you've never looked at it. So let's get started. Before the 1920s, there was no concept in the United States of the word marijuana, a word used in Mexico for many years prior. The word people did know was hemp, which describes the cannabis plant. Hemp was a farm crop in use for many years. By the start of the 1920s, hemp was being grown in farms all over North America and Mexico to make clothing, rope, medicine, candles, and a variety of other products. And yes, hemp was also being smoked recreationally. It was gaining popularity with white Americans and was extremely popular already with the Mexican population in the States. Nobody was uncomfortable with the idea of smoking up. Hemp was a legal and growing industry. Then, at the peak of hemp's popularity, the first villain came out and got the ball rolling for prohibition: William Randolph Hearst. If he sounds familiar, it's because he was a newspaper tycoon in the early 1900s. In the days when newspapers were the #1 news source, he was one of the true media emperors of his time. But Hearst was not just a publisher. He was a shrewd businessman who produced his own paper for his own newspapers, cultivated from timber grown on his own land. This process allowed him to produce cheap paper and have an edge on his competition. As Brian from Family Guy cleverly referenced in one episode, in the 1920s when hemp began being considered as a replacement for timber, Hearst became nervous. Hemp could be grown much faster than timber, on a lot less land. Meanwhile, at that point, Hearst had already bought millions of acres of forest real estate. This gave Hearst a reason to attack hemp, and the easiest way to do that was attack its recreational use and attack its association to Latin Americans during a period when U.S.-Mexican relations were pretty rocky. So, in the 1920s, Hearst's newspapers began churning out wacky ads and articles about hemp. Except they didn't call it hemp, because hemp sounded too familiar. Hearst instead borrowed the alien-sounding term marijuana, a word most Americans didn't even know yet. Hearst focused only on the recreational aspects of marijuana and portrayed it as a Mexican drug infiltrating America. He combined this racist propaganda with outlandish statements, being the first to suggest that in the media that pot was worse than any other drug and a major source of violence and crime among young people. Hearst was almost single-handedly responsible for sparking the reefer madness era, when the average American went from virtually ignoring marijuana's existence in 1915 to being terrified of pot by 1930. Still, Hearst was only responsible for shifting the public opinion. Then, William Randolph Hearst was assisted by a second person who took the campaign to the next level, the political and legal level. Join us next time on Lex's World for Part 2 when we talk about that person, Harry J. Anslinger. If you found this useful, be sure to hit the subscribe button up top to catch us next time, or the like button below. See you next time on Lex's World.